this evening. We're going to take you through a presentation which focuses on a couple of things. The programs here. Just going to give you a sense, who is here for the MBA program? Anybody here for the online MBA program? And Masters of Project Management?
I am.
I am. Okay, thank you. Hospitality? Okay, so we pretty much have everybody represented. So we're going to walk you through that. We're going to spend some time on the application process. We're going to spend some time on career management. That's one of the more important things that we want to make sure that we focus on. You want to make sure that whichever program, whether it's the grade school or someplace else, you understand and are clear that this is not, I repeat, this is not undergrad. I want to be crystal clear about that. None of the programs, any of us offer the master's program, you guys do not have to do any of these things. You want to be a lawyer, you got to go to law school. You want to be a doctor, you got to go to med school. But when I be in business world, you don't need any one of these degrees we're talking about. I emphasize the word need. They certainly are very, very valuable and certainly are helpful. So we want to make sure that you're thinking on the way in, how is this degree going to help me in my career? Whether I'm in my career, whether I'm just starting my career, do I not like where I am and I want to switch? Do I not like what I'm doing and I want to switch to a different company, a different industry vertical? Do I just want to start my own business? We just want to make sure, because my assistant director, Nick, Mr. Fletcher, Nick, we're the two of us are informal. University's not informal, we're informal. We spend a lot of time and effort developing our professional development series. And he's the one who really runs and manages that entire process. Because whether you're working someplace or whether you're going to be moving into a new role, we want to make sure that you are as prepared as you can be for whatever it is that you want to do. That is one of the most important things that we take out of here. We are not interested in you guys walking out of here with 4.0s. We don't mind it, Atara. Atara just graduated in May with a 4.0 out of the MBA program. We don't mind it. But we understand that the getting the work experience, especially if you don't have it in whatever area you're trying to go into, is in some cases more important to employers. We put things in place called professional development series, which will be project-based learning, which we'll talk about, which are semester-long, could be semester-long projects designed to provide that kind of experience. So anyway, with that, all right. So here we are with the program. So we'll just go on to the next slide then. So again, this is me. Corporate career before I came to Morgan. That's Nick. Again, the corporate career before he came. And then Ms. Tara Shand, who several of you have probably spoken with, our administrative assistant, has been here since '97, has been with us at the business school since 2006. Okay. So this is the profile of the spring. So the last class that was admitted. So this is the profile of the average GPA by program. This is the breakdown of students. So
male, female, as well as percentage of program.
Percentage of program. So you can see the incoming class was almost 61% female. Next slide. Average work experience. So these are years of work experience. So we're somewhere between, probably a year on the low end, upward as high as 7 years on the high end. So a nice range. So this is what you want to do. So here's where the interests lie. And again, I think this is an important takeaway. We now have the tools to do a much better job of tracking this. So for those of you on the phone, I'm pointing at the average salary increase post-graduation. Again, why are you here? So listen to where an important statistic. This is interesting. This is our population, student population here. So obviously the majority of students from the U.S., but it's a nice international population, and you see that reflected while you're going through class. The faculty as well is from all over the place. So again, just kind of an added value while you're going through the learnings. So where'd you guys go to school? So these are all the schools represented for the spring of 19. Obviously, the largest component is going to be from alumni from Morgan State, but there are a lot of universities represented here. Undergraduate majors, almost half were business, 13% engineering, and then just some sports slides to get on work experience. So just trying to give you guys a sense of what the most recent incoming class looked like. I will stop now, and I'll let Nick talk briefly about the professional development series. So I'll turn it over to him now.
Sure, and actually, before we do that, I want to, some of you may have seen this, some of you may not have, but I want to make sure we share the video with you.
Collaboration and innovation drove the design of our 140,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility. The design of the Graves School of Business and Management is angled in one direction, and that design is deliberate and symbolic. The angle was created because we want our students to forever look toward the future, because the university and the world are both committed to moving forward, and ultimately, the structuring of our master's program toward the future. The Graves School of Business and Management was the first business school in the state of Maryland and housed at Morgan State University. The university recently designated as a national treasure and celebrated over 150 years of history. The Graves School of Business and Management was named after Mr. Earl G. Graves, who graduated in the Morgan State University class of 1957, or to be more precise, Morgan State College class of 1957, and is the founder of Black Enterprise Magazine. One of Mr. Earl Graves' famous quotes is, "Sell to their needs, not yours." And it's this idea that drives all of us in Morgan State Graves School of Business and Management to meet the needs of our students, not our own needs. We are an ACSP accredited institution offering master's degrees in both the traditional in-class setting and the online platform that is high quality and ranked. Here at the Graves School, we don't want to be known just as a finance school, or just as an entrepreneurship school, just as a marketing school. We want to prepare our students to implement and execute a customized career strategy where we help them confirm what they want to do and give them the resources and tools to be prepared to enter into and excel in their professional endeavors.
Graves School of Business is putting out of my shell. Graves School of Business has been looking at different career opportunities that I would never looked at before. You know, it basically gave me the opportunity to excel. One of the things that stood out for me was the Graves School of Business in this program. It's doing a professional development series because it's a career assessment. I had my own idea about what I wanted to do with my life prior to being enrolled in Graves School. And through taking that career assessment, I learned that, hey, you're good at finance, you're good at accounting, you're good at entrepreneurship. Those are the markets that I would never go about.
We offer a traditional Master's of Business Administration, or the MBA, both in class and online. The Master of Science in Project Management, both in class and online. The Master of Science in Accounting, and the Master of Science in Hospitality. We offer state-of-the-art facilities, including our Capital Markets Lab, Network Securities Lab, marketing focus group lab, and 10 operating hotel rooms. The Grace School of Business and Management is proud of its robust entrepreneurship office. We aim to admit students to the Grace School based on their potential to let knowledge flow through and apply that knowledge to innovate the real world. So whether you're looking to move up in your career, gain the experience of attending an AU, or redefine and implement your career strategy, we are the right institution for you.
Make sure that when you get to try to grow your network, try to take advantage of every opportunity you see in terms of job fairs, career placements, like learning and development for interviews and stuff like that. Make sure you get yourself involved with many career-related programs. That should be very important.
We are honored to invite you to our program, and we invite your pursuit to take your career as
Back to. Let's do it this way. Perfect. All right. Well, I believe I've probably interacted with each of you all in some way, shape, or form, whether it be phone or email. But as Mr. Wells spoke, my name is Nick Fletcher. I'm the Assistant Director of the Master's Programs here at the Grace School of Business. One of the main reasons, as I'm told, I was brought into the role was based on my background in corporate as well as executive search. The idea was, how do we take wonderful minds, the energy, the ambition of the students in the program, and help them be able to translate those skills into building their corporate strategy, building their career strategy, and actually implementing and executing that strategy. So pretty much put together the building blocks of what does it take to have a strong career, and what's the thought process around doing that. You all, I'm sure, heard it in the video. We don't want to be known as the marketing school. We don't want to be known as the finance school. We want to be known as a school where you come in. We help you understand you. Then we drive that into a corporate strategy. Why? Because there's nothing worse than coming in and saying 5 years after graduation, hey, Mr. Fletcher, I can't stand what I'm doing anymore. Can you help? That's why it's so important coming in, you know what you want to do, and we can guide you down that track. So we start off professional development with a career assessment. It happens every semester. Mr. Fletcher, I know what I want to do. Okay, prove it to me. And those same students inevitably, oh, I never really thought about this, never really thought about that. And then in every semester I also get the, I'm really not sure what I want to do. But guess what? When you finish with this career assessment, you will. The career assessment is 100 questions, really 20 questions asked 5 different ways, but you will literally get a list of 3 to 5 disciplines within business to go into based on your skills, your interests, your passions. So when we start talking about concentrations, we start talking about what electives you want to take, we start talking about, well, wait a second, I want to focus in specific areas and look at certain opportunities, we make sure we're going in the right direction from the start. And each of these, this list, each of them are modules within the professional development series that everybody takes. I don't care if you're coming in with 0 years of work experience or if you're coming in with 20. Why is that important? Because everybody can learn from everybody else. So at the end of the day, all of these are building blocks of building each other. So if you now know, I want to go into accounting, great. Mod 2 is, let's start looking at the different accounting firms out there that are in your areas, the geographic areas that you want to be in. Let's start looking at different cultures and understanding that every accounting firm is not the same. So where do you fit in best? Larger firm, smaller firm? What are the pros and cons of each? Well, wait a second. Let me begin to research what does this specific company look for in traits in those that they're promoting versus other firms? And how do those align into me and what naturally makes sense for me? Okay, now we've got that done, and there's a lot to digest. Let's actually do some one-on-one coaching. Let's make sure all of this is making sense. Let's make sure there aren't questions out there. Let's do a true, honest gut check. Is this scary? Do you think you can do it? What are your major questions? Again, we're doing all this before we get to the basics, of writing the resume, LinkedIn profile. And we do all of those things too. We go through the interview preps. We go through the STAR method. Any of you guys ever heard of the STAR method and what that is? Well, those who come through the program certainly will, and they'll know it early. The reason that we put first semester students through this program, and Mr. Wells alluded to it earlier, because it is very important to get the experience. Many of you may even be coming in with work experience, but you may want to do that, what we like to call the pivot shift. So were you in marketing? Or were you in HR? Or maybe you were pursuing law school, and now all of a sudden you're thinking, hey, I want to do a different twist. Well, you're going to need, in whatever that career assessment says, hey, you want to go into this, you're going to need to build experience. So the beauty of the program is all of our classes are in the evening, from 6 to 9. So guess what? That gives you the full day. Now, yes, there's going to be studying. Yes, you're going to have to juggle some things, but the idea becomes go out there. Even if it's early on, some cases of just volunteering to get what I like to call the resume builders on your resume. So when you're at National Black MBA or when you're going to the career fair here on campus, you've got something tangible beyond that excellent grade in class to show that you've taken that learning and you've adapted it. So these are all pivotal, important points. Yes, we take you through the offer negotiation, but guess what? Just getting the offer and showing up the first day, that's really when things begin. Because what we're about here at the Gray School of Business is not just getting you to the point of, oh, I have a job. We even want to go beyond developing careers. We want to build leaders. We want you all to be coming back as alumni saying, I need 3 or 4 to bring into my company, to bring into my firm, to bring into my department and my organization. That's the idea. So if we're building leaders here at the Gray School, we've got to make sure when you get in, and this is why we do workplace emotional intelligence, that you don't necessarily get sidetracked when things don't go exactly according to plan. And we want to make sure that you all are always focused on the long term. But walking into the office, you're not going to get along with everybody. Everyone's not going to necessarily buy into all of your ideas. How do you deal with that? And how do you stay focused on your next role, or better yet, 2 steps ahead? and drive your energy there versus the things that might not be going exceptionally well. So again, beyond just the offer. And then lastly, anyone know the difference between a mentor and a sponsor? Oh, don't be a shy group, take a shot. Please.
So a mentor is someone who kind of show you the ropes, and a sponsor is someone who kind of, they sponsor you, like they might bring you on board so that you can get the training, but they don't really mentor you. Like well, when I look at sponsorship, it's like somebody's giving you something that you didn't earn, like they're not really showing you the ropes, but they're putting you in that position.
Very close.
Okay.
Very close. And the way I would describe it, dead on with regard to the mentor. The mentor is the one that is in the trenches with you, that answers the phone when you call, whether it's big, simple, small. Day to day, that's your mentor. Sponsor is likely the VP or the C level that probably has a lot of respect for the mentor. And because that person respects the mentor, when that C-suite person or VP is sitting in the room and the conversation is, well, is Tanya ready? Or who should get it? Tanya or Tim? That person, that sponsor says, oh no, it should be Tanya. Does that make sense to everyone? The sponsor is watching you from afar. Sponsor kind of knows of you, knows who you are, probably is more engaged with the people that you're associated with, like your mentor, than you. But trust me, she knows who you are and knows very well of your actions, strengths, and opportunities. But we have a whole session around how do you stay involved with those individuals? How do you stay connected? What's the right things to reach out about, and how do you maintain those relationships? We talked through the pod theory, performance, image, exposure. So earlier, Mr. Wells talked about a 4.0. That's performance. And that's a great performance. But you're not going to be a leader in your organization unless you have that I, image, and E, exposure. When you got all three of them, that's when you've got sponsors. So it makes sense? Next slide. So one of the things that we found beyond the professional development series, and again, everybody is required in each of the master's programs to complete the professional development, but it's also required if you will serve as an ambassador to National Black MBA. We take approximately 20 students every year to the conference. This is a key element in time to gain those high-profile, prestige summer internships. When you go to National Black MBA and you can ask, I don't think Atara or Donnell went, but you can ask any of the students that have gone. It is still called the National Black MBA Conference, but you will see people there of every hue and persuasion. And everyone's competing. There are usually 400 plus companies there, and this is where most of the Fortune 500 are going to get their diverse talent, especially for summer internships and rotation programs. So you want to be camera ready, so to speak, when you get there, and that's why we require professional development to be completed before we send you down as an ambassador from our program. And then also anyone who may be interested in grad assistant opportunities, passing professional development is a requirement to be eligible for that. At least grad assistant opportunities within the Gray School of Business. Next slide. Handshake, I'll make this one pretty quick. Handshake is, I think we're probably going on year 3 now, roughly.
In existence?
Yes, since we've had it.
Oh, yeah.
Probably year 3. It's our job portal tool. So as a matter of fact, students, even to apply to be grad assistants or to be ambassadors to the National Black MBA program, students go through and apply through Handshake. But this is also where your Under Armour opportunities are, your Procter & Gamble opportunities are, your Stanley Black & Decker opportunities are. This is where plenty of fellowship opportunities are also listed. So again, we require everyone coming in, set up your profile, and this becomes sort of the avenue to that next step professionally. So it's a very wide, what they call democratizing career opportunities. So other schools that are quote unquote handshake schools, Stanford, NYU Stern. So the students in those programs are the same students that you all will be competing with coming through the Graves School of Business. The good thing is the companies that normally would only go to Stanford or Stern are the same opportunities that are posting those roles here. They may not physically come to Baltimore, they may not physically come to campus, but guess what? You all will be able to get your background, your credentials in front of them. So it opens up a world of opportunity. There are probably, I want to say about 3,800 companies within Handshake that are posting opportunities right now. There are literally more companies and positions than we have students at Morgan registered. So just some things to think about. But the key becomes taking things like professional development serious and making sure that you're prepared when you're putting that resume and application out. Next slide, please. So project-based learning. We discovered probably 2.5 to 3 years ago, we had an enormous amount of intelligent, ambitious, and creative students in the program. Problem was, at the time that they were hitting graduation, to be blunt about it, they weren't necessarily getting the salary offers that they deserve as MBA students. Why? Lack of experience. So what we did was we put together project-based learning, where we have literally gone out into the Baltimore area community, built relationships with entrepreneurs, and linked up students. In some cases, though, these are paid opportunities. In some cases, they're volunteer opportunities. But what's the point? The point is, go and get the experience on your resume so you can get into the let's talk with her a little more. Let's talk with him a little more in depth pile. If you don't have anything on your resume that's going to lend, it's going to be very hard to get any of those recruiters' attention. So we've had some success in project-based learning. Hybrid Razor was actually headquartered over in Israel. They were out of New York. Just so happened their CEO was in the Baltimore area and reached out to us. So we had some students doing some marketing with them, and they specifically wanted to work with us because the razors that they were developing were going to be specific to men with more coarse hair. So we were the perfect target market. Taking a look at Suited to Succeed, they were a nonprofit here in town that worked with women and trying to help them have the right attire to enter the workforce. Boy & Handmade, African-American owned, I want to say it was a beauty product company here in Baltimore. AECOM, which is actually a international conglomerate, came, and we actually had students participating in a team in their venture enterprise group that researched and did work with their direct employees on automated vehicles. And actually students were able to spend, or leverage, I should say, their work with AECOM into working with MDOT, the Maryland Department of Transportation. Let's see, next slide. Let's see, so entrepreneur activity. So by show of hands, are any of you all thinking about entrepreneurship or owning your own business? Okay. Well, technically speaking, and this is probably me getting a little more into professional development, everyone should be raising their hand. Because even if you say, I want to go in and do accounting for Stanley Black & Decker, well, guess what? As I mentioned earlier, we're expecting everyone who graduates out of this program to go and be a leader. So you're going to be running that like it was your own business. Kind of make sense to everybody? We're thinking from a broad perspective. But we actually here, under our roof, have what we, dare I say, see? Essentially the Center for Innovation, Economic Development, and Entrepreneurship. And what happens within the seed, we have relationships with, is it SB, DC, as well as SBA and SCORE. So those are organizations, well, SCORE is actually volunteered former executives who want to pay it forward, and they will work with you, whether you're a student, undergrad, grad, faculty, even a member of the local community, and taking that wonderful, great idea that you have in your head, putting pen to paper, developing your business plan, and or if you have your business plan, helping you bone it up and getting it prepared for whether you're seeking funding or pitching or what have you. The SBDC group is sponsored out of the state of Maryland, and again, trained professionals who will spend one-on-one time with you and helping you get access to capital and pretty much getting you to that next level of entrepreneurship. Once you get roughly over about 100 to 150,000 in annual revenues, the world really opens up with whether they be other accelerators, incubator programs. We ourselves here at the Graves School are the lead institution for the Baltimore area with the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Initiative. Not sure how many of you all may be familiar with that. It's essentially a lot like professional development where business owners are going through mods. I believe there's 9, 10 of them. And it's really about driving growth and driving additional growth of revenue and growth of jobs in major cities. So again, just something to think about as you're thinking through entrepreneurship. We've got relationships with organizations like Betamore, again, another sort of accelerator, incubator. So again, for those of you all that raised your hands or you have that business idea and you're wondering, how can I really get this off its feet? Do I have a team around me where I can be held accountable and really push forward? There's plenty of opportunities in the city where we're tied in as a school and or legitimately under our roof that can help you get to where you need to be. Next slide, please. So we talked, well, tuition. This is information that is apparent online, but some applicants find it a little difficult, so we wanted to make sure it was quick and simple. If you are in state, meaning a Maryland state resident, obviously those are your rates. Out of state is listed as well. For those of you who are interested in the online programs, whether you are going to be in state or out of state, flat rate. And that $30,000 is for both years. So you'll spend essentially $15,000 a year pursuing those degrees. If you guys, well, the math will be a little difficult because we haven't truly gone through the number of credits for programs, but the MBA program is a 36 credit program. All of the other programs, the project management, the MS in accounting, and the MS in hospitality are all 30 credit programs. So you're going to be roughly just over $18K in state. Was there a question? I heard a hand raising. Okay, that's working. Any questions at all on that? Wonderful. Next slide. So, admissions. I am going to start with the deadlines. The upcoming deadline is October 1. All in, everything in October 1. What happens in many cases, deadline hits, people are calling the office. Oh, well, I've got to wait, my transcripts, didn't get sent over, so on and so forth. The reason that we're saying this now, because it's June 12th, that's giving everyone in this room, and we know who you are, we took attendance, And thanks again for you all registering and attending. But we know who you are. So I would hate for someone who's here in this room now to be one of the ones calling saying, oh, well, my recommender, couldn't find the link. Because we have a long runway to go and get all of these things done. It makes life so much easier for both you all as applicants and certainly for us going through and doing the processing, because we do not look at the applications until, in this case, it will be October 2nd. So October 2nd, we're starting to flip through stuff, and if we're finding things out then that are missing or that are incorrect and wrong, and we're reaching out, you're just delaying getting your admissions decisions back. So, thinking about all the things that have to be in the application for it to be complete. Let's start with GMAT. Is everyone familiar with the GMAT? Okay, great. Now, if anyone has started preparing for their GRE or taken the GRE, we will accept it. We strongly, repeat that word one more time, we strongly prefer the GMAT. Mr. Wells talked earlier, if you're going to go to law school, take the LSAT. If you're going to go to med school, take the MCAT. If you're going to go to business school, take the GMAT. Now, for those of y'all interested in MS in hospitality, or for those of y'all who are interested in MS in project management, GMAT is not required, the GRE is not required. It is required for the MBA, the MBA Online, and for the MS in accounting. Now, before anyone asks, actually, I think we have a slide on it, so I won't jump the gun. But I will say that there are GMAT waiver opportunities, and into that a little later on. So if we don't get to that slide, feel free to ask. But still, with regards to the GMAT, we pay close attention to this. I'll be this blunt. Just like every other reputable MBA program, we're aspiring to increase in our rankings. So one of the major things that they look at are test scores or income. I took it, dreaded it, took the prep classes, went through it all, but it paid off. So believe in yourself, trust in yourself, prepare for it. Again, October 1's the deadline, so you got a nice long runway. If you're a great standardized test taker, okay. But do yourself a favor at a minimum, get the book, take a few practice exams, and make sure you know where you're falling. If you see that you're a little below where you want to be or need to be, invest in yourself, whether that be time, money, or energy, but put your best application forward. You don't want to be the one that sends in the application and says, oh, I'm willing to take it again if I need to. Wait a minute, let's do it right the first time. So to make sense? Okay, resume. For anyone who is interested in the MS in Project Management program, there is a 2-year full-time professional experience requirement. The rationale behind that is when you finish the MS in Project Management, you want to be able to sit for the PMP and or the CAPM. Those programs require 4 years of work experience and the master's degree to sit for them. So 2-year program, you got to have 2 years coming in. Rationale make sense? Okay. And your essay. You will see in the next few slides or before we're done, you'll see links to our Twitter, to our LinkedIn, to our Facebook. Pay attention to all that. Please follow us. But most importantly, you're going to see the link to our YouTube page. Go on it. Spend the time to look through the admission tips videos. Yes, we are talking a lot about it today, but do yourself that favor. Specifically around recommendations and what we're looking for, specifically around personal essay, specifically around interviewing. We just instituted with the class that will be starting in fall, interviewing. It's a virtual interview. You saw the slide earlier, Mr. Wells, Ms. Parrish, and myself, we couldn't possibly do all of the interviewing. We sit down and we review your application. If you're a rock star, you got great work experience, stellar GMAT, wonderful GPA, okay, we know enough. We can make an admissions decision on you. You might not get interviewed. If you don't have any of those things, we're not going to waste your time. You're just not ready yet. We'll send you a letter saying, thanks for your interest, try again later. But if you're in that middle tier where, we like a lot of things, but what's going on with the GPA? I know it was a while ago and you got some strong work experience, but help us understand what was taking place there. We just want to make sure that you'll be a good fit. So there's YouTube videos on what we're looking for, how to go through and manage through those, that interview process. We know one of two things when we get applications in. People watched the video and they listened, or people either didn't care to watch the video, or even worse, they watched it but didn't follow the directions. So do yourselves a favor. That makes sense. 3 letters of recommendation. Again, when you go into your application, you will enter a name and an email address. The system will automatically trigger an email to be sent out to your 3 recommenders. We get calls all the time. My recommender can't find it. Okay, make sure they check spam, junk mails, and one of the things that we've actually instituted now is your recommenders will be able to do a search of your name, because your name will be in the subject line of the email that's sent. It's very important that your recommenders go through the process, because there's indicators beyond just uploading a letter that we factor in. Your recommenders will rate you and make comments on 5 to 6 different areas. So we get applicants will say, oh, I have the letter here, or even recommenders will reach out and say, well, can I just email you the letter? Okay, that's what you want to do, but that is going to not put that applicant in the best position of admission or to get the points throughout our process. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And is that a question that came in, maybe?
Raising her hand, Tangela Hamilton.
Okay. Maybe that was a yay.
Hi.
You heard it. Thank you. Is there a question, Angela?
Yes, I do. I just want to be clear with the process. So instead of getting these letters separately from individuals, when we go in and do the application process, the email address of our recommendation, and that will trigger an email to them, and then they will follow the letter of recommendation.
Yes, absolutely. So you as an applicant, you will be able to go in and track where your application is. So you'll be able to see all 3 of your recommenders, whether they've opened that email, whether they've submitted the information to us. So I strongly suggest that everybody, especially closely around that deadline date, you're going in, you're tracking your application, you're communicating with your recommenders. If they're responding and saying, I can't find it, you're giving them the direction around, do a search for your name specifically. But yes, all you've got to do in the application process as an applicant, Angela, is put in their name and their email address. They will handle everything else from there. If they have a letter, they will have the option of being able to upload that into that recommendation response, and that will come over to us.
Great. Finally, my last question.
Sure.
When I begin the application process, do I have to have my GMAT already, or is this like an ongoing process and I add things as it comes in?
The latter. So you can start your application in 2 minutes from now, and then you can actually take your GMAT the 31st of September.
Perfect.
What happens when you take your GMAT, you're actually given an unofficial score right after you take the exam. So you could literally, if everything else is done in your application, you get that, you can bring it home, scan it, or take a picture of it, upload it into your application, then you hit submit. Make sure you actually pay the $40 application fee and hit submit. You've got to do those two things for the application to actually come over to us.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, concerns, criticisms? We're moving along. We hit everything here. The deadline for spring 2020 is? All right, next. So, for those of you all who cringe when I say GMAT, and I'm sure you did, because I remember sitting on that side and I remember cringing too. What we have done is we have put a prep class together. This is not a class directly taught through the university. This is a third-party vendor. He's actually been teaching with us 10 plus years. We typically do a fall, spring, and summer session. We're still working on the dates for fall. What it looks like we're going to do is we will probably start a class in early September. It is typically a 10-week class that we will probably have to shorten till about 7. And if you guys are kind of doing the math in your head, you're thinking, wait a minute, class starts in September, deadline is the 1st, what's happening? This is not a mandatory class, but for anyone who is in this particular class and registered by the time the class starts in September, what we will do, if they're planning to apply to the grade school, is we will grant an extension for the GMAT for those students who are in this particular class. Again, you can prep in whichever way you all want to. This is not a requirement, but we are providing it. If we are going to look more into your GMAT scores, it's only fair that we continue to provide opportunities and options for you all to achieve those scores that we're looking for, or higher scores, I should say. This used to be a $599 class that we now have reduced to $399. So hopefully that helps as well. Everyone in this room, because you registered for our open house today, you're on our prospective list. So once we get the dates for the upcoming GMAT prep, you all, well, everyone who's expressed interest in MBA and everyone who's expressed interest in MS in accounting will get that new information. And if for some reason you all don't hesitate to reach out to us and we'll provide it for you. Fair? Thanks so much. Thanks a lot. So, GMAT waiver. We talked about this a little bit earlier. So, some of you may be sitting back thinking, wait a minute, you know, I've got X years of experience, or my GPA is blank. How do I get out of this GMAT thing? It's possible. It absolutely is. But what are our numbers here? I want to say roughly about 15 to 20% of those that apply for the waiver actually get it. So it's possible. But here's some of the data metrics around those that get it. 33% of individuals had above a 3.8. 27 had between a 3.5 and a 3.7. Between a 3.0 and 3.4 were 13%. 67% actually had another master's degree that they had completed. Work experience, 33% of them were 15 years plus. 8 to 14 years was a 27%, and 4 to 7 years experience was 20. People management, I'm actually glad that's there. I'm shocked by the number of people who are actually people managers who don't have it on their resume. Whether you are applying for the waiver or just applying to the program, if you are a people manager, please make sure it's indicated on your resume. Please. And it would be great, managed a team of blank, led team of blank. When I say blank, number of people or what have you. Military experience, 13% as well. So now, what's also here is the link. Doesn't hurt to try. Don't mind you putting it out there, but if you go to the link, it's going to ask you name, phone number, email address, and it's going to ask you to upload 2 things: current resume and an unofficial copy of your transcripts. Those are the 2 documents that we need. We'll go through and assess everything else, and within 2 to 3 business days, we get back and say, yes, you received the waiver. Please make sure you keep this email and you upload this email in your application in the GMAT section. So when you're applying, we don't call you or reach out and say you don't have a, was that?
Tangela has a question.
Please, question?
Real quickly, sorry to interrupt. Where is that link?
It's the worst link.
Oh, are you unable to see?
No, I
It's-
see the link here. Is it going to be here where we click on that, or is it going to be in the application process?
This won't be a live link, so unfortunately, you may have to either to type that out.
Okay.
If you're unable to, or you have any problems, you can just send an email to Graves Masters. That's GravesMasters @morgan.edu, and we can send you the live link.
If I could,
Thank you.
it's June the 12th. So if you're so inclined to apply for the waiver, please do. If it's September 30th, do not waste your time or our time. And I only say that because we get requests for waivers the day before, sometimes the day of. And if you feel like rolling the dice, you're more than welcome. But if you're denied, and I think almost everybody who does that ends up getting denied, now you have a decision to make, because you need to take the GMAT to complete your application.
I'm sorry, what was your percentage that you denial?
Roughly 15 to 20% actually get approved for the waiver.
I'll roll the dice. Keep the dice. Put the link.
Oh, rolling the dice now, today, is not a problem at all.
Yeah, I know. I would rather do it sooner than later.
That's the full point that we were making. We don't want anyone to wait until 2 or 3 days before, because if you don't get the waiver, you really don't have time to then take the exam. So at that point, you're essentially gonna have to wait until the next admission cycle, pretty much. But if you know now, hey, I need to take it, you got plenty of runway and time to prepare for an October 1 deadline.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And one point about the waiver link, everyone here should have gotten the e-brochure for the program. If you go to page 4 of the e-brochure, that is a live link to the waiver. So it's on the frequently asked questions. I want to say the third or fourth question down. So again, if you're having any problems finding a link or accessing the link, that's another way to do it. Again, you can just go back to the email that we
MBA, project management is close to that number. Accounting and hospitality are lower than that.
Oh, I meant for the waiver.
For the waiver? Again, I wouldn't worry about that. The waiver is not a competitive. If 100 people apply for the waiver and we have an algorithm and 100 people qualify for the waiver, then 100 people would get the waiver.
No, I mean, like, as far as like figuring out how many people are 15%, like, you know what I mean?
I see what you're saying, but there's no cap. So we don't look at it and say, oh, we're only giving 5 GMAT waivers for the incoming class. You know, to Mr. Wells' point, if you're coming in and you're on the higher echelon in these areas, you're gonna get it. So if we have out of those whatever 120 applicants, if 60 people are fitting the higher echelon there, then 60 of them are gonna get waivers versus if only 5 of them do. Does that make sense? So I understand your logic, but
That wasn't my question. Okay, let me try to reword it.
go for it.
Okay, so you said that between 15 and 20% of people who apply to the waiver get that,
Correct.
right? So I'm trying to do a rationale of like how many people actually, not like a cap or anything, but like how many people actually apply to the program? Like not program, to the waiver.
So, I mean, honestly, that varies.
Okay.
I mean, some semesters will get maybe 20 or 30 people, and then some might get 8 or 9. And honestly, I think it all goes down to people who look at this and they think, oh, okay, I can do it. Or, you know what, let me just focus on knocking the exam out. That makes sense.
Question.
Please.
So I assume if your GPA and your work experience, for instance, is on the higher side, of course, I'm sure you probably will be granted a waiver, more than likely. But if you have one or the other, does one weigh more than the other? Do you consider, so if you have good quality work experience, but maybe your GPA was on the lower end of the spectrum, would you weigh your work experience over the GPA, or would you actually need both of them to really?
And this is specific to the waiver, not the overall application.
Yes, the waiver, yes.
So I'm trying to think through the exact methodology. I think the best way to put it is this, and simply I'm going to say no. I think that, I'll try this one. I'm surprised I didn't get into this spiel yet. And this is more with regards to admission, but it does bleed over into the waiver. It's pretty much 3 levers. If you sit back and you think about applying to an MBA program or master's in a business school, you've got your GPA, you've got your work experience, and GPA, work experience, what am I forgetting?
Test scores.
That's it. Okay. So, 2 out of 3, you're in good shape. Now, it's really not going to matter too much to us if it's, hey, I got a great GMAT score and a GPA that's phenomenal. And work experience we're not necessarily weighing them, but we're looking at, okay, how we want to set up students for success. So we want to make sure, A, you can handle the academic rigor of the program, and B, that you're mature enough to be able to come through the program and take full advantage of all the resources that are here. So yeah, we're looking at some of the other package, what are your recommenders saying about you, what are you writing in your essays, all those things are reviewed. But if you look at those 3 levers, if you at least have 2 of them that are working in your favor, from an admissions perspective, that looks really good. But I'll say this, be smart. If you know that you're lacking in one of those areas, don't leave it up to us to connect those dots. Because we as admissions professionals can be really judgmental. And we're probably going to think the worst. So don't leave it up to our creative imaginations. Lay it out for us and help us understand. We don't want to get into deep, personal things, but just help us understand why a GPA might not have been as strong. Or help us understand, okay, maybe your work experience isn't as strong, but what is your long-term plan, and how's an MBA going to help you get there to overcome that quickly? So things like project-based learning. I want to get into your program, and I immediately want to understand how I can get into project-based learning because I want 2 years of experience in accounting. Kind of make sense?
So I'll add something there quickly. One of the things that that I did when I first got here, that Nick and I have refined, is the notion of looking at work experience. And looking at work experience in 2 ways. It's the length of work experience, it's the progression. So you've been out for 10 years and you started as an analyst and you're an analyst 10 years later. You started as an analyst and now you're a director. Are you managing people? So clearly, if you're 1 year out of undergrad, your GPA better be on the high side because you don't have that work experience. If you're 10 years out, 12 years out, then we're looking more heavily at that work experience and now that's not just for the waiver, but thinking about the application process. So if the GPA is say it's just a 3, but you've been out for 10 years, that GPA, and I will just tell you, most other programs may not tell you, we'll just tell you that GPA is going to matter less to us than the quality of the work experience and people management and that experience you gain, but that needs to come through on the resume and needs to come through in the personal statement. And then when your recommender is providing us with that information, that should be reinforcing what's in there. So if you're paying great attention to detail and hard work and work ethic and stuff that you're claiming, that stuff and that's on your resume and that's in your personal statements, it'll also be supported in what the recommenders put in. So again, as one of the changes I made is we read everything. This is not just I have a 3.5, let me walk in the door like it was before. We look at everything so that we're really bringing in the most well-rounded, holistic, and competitive class that we can find. And to Nick's point, it also makes your ultimate placement easier and better for you and for us on the back end when we're trying to do that. So that's how we think about work experience versus GPA and test scores and all of that. Is that it's again, if you're and I went through this when I applied to business school, but I was 5 years out. There are people who were 2 years out. They just finished a 2-year program and were applying. And I remember the admission officer telling them, yeah, their GPA better be sky high. Because they don't have anything else. Only work for 2 years. I got people who work for 10 years who run divisions and whatnot, So that's why in some rare cases I waited 5 years before I applied to go to school. So that's how we begin to think about that. And those things then factor into it also then factor in that way in the GMAT. That's why you'll see people management of 40%. Take the work experience, 8 years plus, that's 60% of the people. So you begin to add some of the numbers together, and you can see that GPA, you almost track identically in terms of 33, 27, in this case 20 for 4 to 7 versus the 3 to 3.4, 13%. Now again, you can put some of these things together. I could have another master's degree, a GPA of 3.0 and 8 to 14 years of work experience. So some of these pieces get added up together. But we just want to put this out there and say that A, it is possible. The but B, there's a hurdle to get over, and we have thought about this and putting together our algorithm for how we evaluate it and then how we actually weigh each of the components in terms of the algorithm.
Yes. Is the presentation available in case prospects wanted to revisit the slides in the future?
Sure, we can certainly make it.
Is it on YouTube? Like the
The discussion is in some of the videos, I'm sure. Like, take, for example, this GMAT waiver would be in the GMAT admissions tips portion. Next one. Admissions tips resume. So, again, work experience is important. Ideal candidates would have 2 to 3 years of work experience, though every semester we have students coming right in from undergrad. Every semester we have students come in with more than 3 years. So we're just laying out the ideal scenario. Include major accomplishments such as promotions, people management experience. We talked about that before. If you were promoted, make sure that that is evident. Use numbers. You want to be able to differentiate yourself. What I talk about in professional development all the time is let the other person make the decision. Don't tell them that you're good or you're great or that you got great time management. Tell them facts. I was a full-time master's student working full-time, and I was also leader of the human resources club at my master's program. Okay, you did all of that and you were an honor student and your club raised X number of dollars. Okay, now I get it. You gave me what you did, you gave me some results, so I can figure out on my own will and accord that you're a great time manager. Does that make sense? But again, if I don't understand the numbers, when I or the admissions committee is looking through the resume, we don't know. Does that make sense? And again, there's more insights around the resume when you look in the YouTube videos as well. But share size of your teams. Share the revenues of your companies. One thing that we also look at when we're looking through your resume are prestige companies. So did you work for a Fortune 500? Did you work for an industry leader? So the more we know about the type of organizations that you worked and the scale, are they international? Are they regional? Are they national? That helps too. You want to make sure those things are captured in your resumes. Profile, companies, again, geographic reach, we went through that. And also, if there are international students that are in the room or on the online logging in, make sure you're submitting a resume and not a CV. Next slide. So essays. Blunt and simple, we want to know you. There's nothing worse than getting the essay and just, okay, that's what everyone says, that's what everyone says, and after 2 or 3 paragraphs, it's glazed over. We really want to get to know you, so take some time. I know when I worked on my essays, I probably had 9 different revisions of them. I had friends read them that weren't MBAs. I had friends read them that knew me back in elementary school. So you want to make sure you're truly presenting yourself well and you're actually answering the questions that are being asked. Why do you want a master's has got to be in there, please. What do you want? Wait a minute. Oh, and why here? There are other MBA schools, but we're looking for a certain type of student, and we want those students to understand, A, the students that we're looking for, and then why they should be here. Lastly, what do you plan to do with your master's after graduation? And how can we uniquely help you? You want to address any potential concerns. I talked earlier about low GPA. All right, low GPA. Well, the best thing to do is balance that with a strong GMAT score, and then progressive work experience. Or maybe, especially if you didn't have a business background, go take an accounting class or corporate finance class even at a local community school. And just include those grades in with your other transcripts. So we can say, oh, well, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, he was in school, not that great a student, but nowadays seems to be taking it a lot more serious. And those, you can write even in your essays, the scores that I got in my most recent classes are more indicative of my abilities. Low GMAT, again, taking a prep class, balancing it with a high GPA, limited work experience, your letters of recommendation, showing leadership, showing other things that you've been involved in, whether that was athletics, clubs in school, military. Those are things that you can address in essays to help us understand. And again, it's better if you all recognize it coming in and address it than us observing it and then having to connect those dots. Length, we get that quite a bit. There is no requirement, but the average is about 1.5 pages to 2 pages. But again, we want you to be unique. We want to understand what makes you tick. We want to understand what motivates you. Additional preparation steps have people, oh, again, as I talked there. Yes.
Tangela has a question.
Sorry.
One more time.
I said I didn't mean to interrupt.
You want to finish your thoughts first?
Oh, no, you're fine. Please, go ahead.
Thank you. Your link for the GMAT waiver, it asks for the transcript. But my file, I guess, that I have is too big, so what do I need to do? Zip it?
If the file is too big, and there's no way to either zip it or to reduce that file size, I'd try to attach it via email and send it to Graves Masters.
Okay.
And just make sure you're including in the text and in the body that it's the transcript that should accompany a waiver that you've submitted.
Is it a PDF?
It's a PDF. It's a PDF.
Is it a PDF?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it says that the file size cannot be bigger than 104 kilobytes.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll work through that one.
I'm sorry, 1,000 before.
Okay, work through that.
No problem.
But one thing I will say is, as Nick said, is we take the essay seriously. So beyond the things like spell check, do a name replace. It's funny if we get an essay where the person says, I'm really interested in going to Howard. I laugh at it now. It's not funny when we're reading it. I was visiting Duke when I was looking to go, and they told a story about somebody who, they said not only did the person not do the global name replace, the school they left on there was North Carolina.
Which is right.
So the admission officers were joking about how quickly they were looking to just reject the entire application. So, and again, this is about putting your best foot forward. When I was interviewed, because I was interviewed before I went to school, I was prepared for everything. And I got grilled for 45 minutes of why I had a C in accounting. I was a history major. I had a C in accounting my junior year of spring. That's all I wanted to talk about. And I did not want to tell them that I was pledging a fraternity. I didn't want to have that conversation. So after about the 5th or 6th excuse, I was getting pinned back in the corner. I finally said, look, this is what happened. Because there was a dip in grade that semester, and then it kind of rebounded. So they were like, well, what happened? So I finally said, well, this is what happened. Okay. That was it. That's all they really wanted to know. But the point is they dug in and looked through everything and said, everything looks great, but what happened here? I hadn't addressed it clearly, quite frankly, I didn't think I had to, but they did. So, like Vic said, it's be proactive if, and I stress the word if, you have these kind of things on the, with the GPA, with the transcripts. Again, you could have had, I had a very high GPA, but I was applying to a business school. So the one business-oriented class I took was accounting. Like I said, I was a history major. So they wanted to know, well, what was up with this? And I'd worked in banking before I got to business school. They didn't care. They wanted to know what was up with this. So, that's what I ended up telling them. So again, basically, it's, as he said, it's you're better off. Let's take a look at a resume. You paint the picture. Don't let me paint the picture. Because we may misinterpret things. We may not understand. I guess if you got out in 2010 and your, resume is 2010 to 11, and then 11 to 12, and then 15 to 16. Whoa, what happened? There's 3 years missing. What happened here? Well, there's a year missing. So again, just simply address those things, and it can be very easy, very rational reasons why there's a gap in the resume. But don't leave it up to us to try and figure out what that is. I don't know what that is. So again, you're just trying to, be transparent, laying out, and those things, and then telling us, again, like you said, why do you want to be here? Make sure your recommenders give the information. There's nothing worse than reading a recommendation that's clearly been written for somebody else. We read recommendations where we got 3 or 4 people coming, and it's clear the same recommender wrote everything because all he did was
Change the name.
And that speaks to 2 things. One is the recommender didn't know any of the people. More importantly, the people getting the recommendation didn't know him. So I don't need a recommendation from the CEO of blank who has no idea, in fact, who you are. I'd rather get it from a manager who actually knows you, knows your performance, knows your skills, knows your drive, knows your hunger, is aware of your ambition, and is a manager. That's way more impactful than something from somebody who's so removed that they just don't know you. So that's why when we said go to the website, we kind of did to the YouTube page to get this information. That's why we put that out there. That's why we spend as much time on, and we're going to move on. We're going through the application process because we want to make sure you guys are putting your best foot forward. Again, whether it's here, whether someplace else you're applying. It's all about putting your best foot forward and being as prepared as you possibly can be.
Yeah, we can flip to the next slide, but he's absolutely right. You got to think about it like this. When you're applying into the program, it's got to be you guys presenting at your best. Because here's what an admissions thing, especially one like ours that is also considering placement at the end of the program. We're thinking, okay, if you're not going to put your best foot forward at the application, what type of student are you going to be when you walk into the classroom? What type of applicant are you going to be when we're trying to get you, bless you, to Stanley Black & Decker, Under Armour, Procter & Gamble, Google, Facebook, Republic Services, Exelon, wherever it is that you want to be. So, it's important. Admissions tips transcripts, if you can send them electronically, please do so.
No, if you send them electronically, it will be an unmitigated disaster if you do not send them. I mean, it's part of your application process. So I want to be very clear. When you submit your application, everybody needs to have copies of 2 things that are called, quote-unquote, unofficial. Test scores, if they're required for the program, and a transcript. Unofficial transcript versus an official transcript is just when you get your official transcript in a hard copy, you break the seal, it's now unofficial. If your transcript is sent to you, and then you forward it to anybody, it's unofficial. I want to be clear, that's the only difference, it's the same document. But in order for us to streamline and speed up the admissions process, we made this change with the School of Graduate Studies that all applicants upload a copy of their transcript. And if you got your transcript or earned your degree from a university or college outside of the United States, it has to be evaluated. That transcript has got to be evaluated by either WES or ECE. The university will not accept a transcript from a foreign institution if it has not been evaluated through WES or ECE. Simply put, a lot of the schools outside of here grade you on a 5-point scale. We're a 4-point scale here in the States. So what these translation services do is take your degree in accounting from the University of Lagos in Nigeria on a 5-point scale, translate, go course by course, evaluating that against comparable U.S. institutions, U.S. courses, and then take your grade of a 4.3 and put that onto whatever grade that is on a 4.0 scale. And so that's why that is important. But you've got to have a copy. So if you don't have a copy of your transcript now, just request it from your undergraduate institution. You request it once, you can upload it and send it around as many times as you need to for however many programs that you're applying to. And a lot of programs do this the same way. They have you upload an unofficial copy. If you are admitted, in your admissions letter from the School of Graduate Studies, it will stipulate that you must have an official copy of both your transcript and your test score sent to the university. Now, if you take the GMAT and you list Morgan State as one of the schools, we're automatically going to get that. Don't have to worry about that. Your transcript you will have to request. It's simple. You simply have to request that they send it to Morgan. But this is an important thing that, again, helps streamline our process. So if you don't have one, it's down June 12th. Don't email us on September 30th. Oh, I don't have a copy of my transcript. I don't know what to do. You have to hit submit and pay by October 1st. So we say this early on and kind of beat it to death to make sure that you guys simply pull this documentation that you need, and pull it together now.
You'd be surprised. Sometimes it does take time. And the applications are pulled in, or applications go to a centralized location on campus, not necessarily our office. And the reason that we stress send things in electronically is because some kind of way paper grows feet and walks away when it comes to transcripts and things like that. So if there are things like tracking numbers and it's done electronically, so people have confirmations, this was sent, this was done, this date, this time, it makes everything so much easier. So that's that point. And recommendations, we've talked through a lot of this already with regards to making sure that recommenders have the link. Certainly ask people before you send the link to them. I can't believe I have to remind people to do that, but strange things have happened.
Ask people before you list them as a recommender.
Right, that's my point.
You'd be surprised. I've gotten that. I've been asked for our recommendations, and I've just gotten a link from people who graduated along with PhDs. I'm like, okay. Then I get an email, can you write a recommendation? And I'm like, well, yeah, I can write your recommendation. I wish you'd asked me first. But yeah, I'll write your recommendation. But quite frankly, a recommendation will be the kind of, I wish you'd asked me first recommendation. You know, it could be from somebody I don't even know that well. But what they want is a recommendation from director of the master program. Again, okay, I would not be the most effective recommender for that person, but I will write them a recommendation. That's no problem.
And it's, you can tell. So choose the recommenders that are going to take the time to craft your story for you versus, someone again that's just going to check a box. Next slide. So let's see. We have laid out an ideal calendar of how we would tackle applying to school. Now again, this is kind of perfect world utopia type thing, but if we look down the bottom, ideally we are now in June. So it would have been great to have had the GMAT taken care of, probably started thinking about that, prepping and knocking it out between February and April. May, starting to work on personal statement, crafting that throughout a few different drafts throughout the summer. In July, working through getting transcripts, July and August as well, making sure the resume gets taken care of, and moving into recommendations as well when we get into August, and then September, closing everything out. So again, it's June. Really the only thing, if you even followed this, that you missed out on would be the GMAT portion, but there's time to catch up on that. But you want to understand the main aspects and really thinking about the time to put in. We don't want the, oh, I need to write an essay, hold on. Submit. We've seen applications with a paragraph. Okay. Okay. That will not be the person that gets to the interview portion or the person that gets the acceptance letter. But take the time, go through these portions. The other thing I will put out is this. Admissions deadline for spring, October 1. Decisions could be earlier, but you'll know by mid-November. We will be asking everyone who was accepted to confirm his or her seat in the class by December 15th. If you are looking at multiple schools and you are up against certain deadlines, you need some information or something to help make your decision, and you haven't gotten it from us, reach out, call, it's fine. You're not bothering us, you're not stressing us out.
What we would hate to do, and what actually just happened, is lose out on an applicant or an admitted student because he was working up against a deadline and just didn't tell us. And there was information he was looking for from us that we actually had, I think, had provided. He just missed the email. And rather than reach back out and say, hey, what about this? He just didn't. I don't know what he was assuming. And then we were calling to follow up on, because we're now trying to solidify the class coming in the fall. And I'm going wherever he's going. And that's fine, good luck. I hadn't gotten this information. We're like, we sent that to you. And then it was a realization of, oh, damn it. But he had already, accepted the other school, and I'm sure he'll do fine. But, again, our process, and we go on about this because we're open. Our doors literally are open. You can ask Tara and Danelle. People can come in and talk to us whenever. They email us whenever, or call us whenever. It's just the two of us upstairs. So all the stuff we're talking about here, the two of us are managing, along with Ms. Tara Shannon, some really good grad assistants to help out. But if there's information you need, questions you have going through any of the process, then just reach out. We're more than happy to answer any of those questions.
So,
Mr. Fletcher.
oh, question?
If for some reason you cannot accept the offer for admittance,
Okay.
for outside of deadlines for other schools, how does it last for a while, or
Yes.
you have to reapply?
So you can defer up to 2 times.
Okay.
You can defer up to a year, which could mean if you're a spring admit and you say, I can't come in the spring for whatever reason, I want to defer to the fall. That's a relatively simple process, all done electronically. If you then say in the fall, I can't come in the fall, can I come in the spring? Yes, but that's it. Or you can say in the spring, can I defer until the following spring? So it's only 1 year deferral, whether you do it in one chunk or do it in 2 chunks. But yes, students do defer, but that does hold their seat. I will say, if you are offered a scholarship, and you defer, then we don't necessarily hold that. So, we just kind of, well, if you're gonna come in the fall, then we'll put you in the pool, in this case, with the people that we're considering for scholarship for the fall. And if you defer until the following spring, then you'll be in that pool with students who are looking to come in the spring. But that's the only thing with, around the deferral. But yes, we absolutely do work with you in the deferral process. Is you do that directly with, somebody out of the School of Graduate Studies.
I have one more question, going back to the GMAT. Is there a minimum score? What is the score that you typically look for?
There is not a minimum score, so it's not as, like Mr. Wells said, we review everything. The GMAT is scored from 200 to 800 points. If a 200 comes in, we're still gonna, read that essay, we're still gonna look at that GPA, we're still gonna score everything out and see what happens. The idea becomes you want to do your very best. Questions?
Going back to the waiver for the GMAT, is if your work experience is in business or finance, is that give you a greater chance of being waived versus just having work experience in, say, IT?
We actually don't get into whether it was, quote unquote, IT or marketing or operations or what have you.
Okay.
We're gonna, now, if we're looking through your resume and it's, back in high school, you were a cashier at Walmart, like, we're not gonna count that.
Yeah.
But, your professional experience, we'll add up in total and we'll use that.
Okay.
But I think one thing to consider is, 5 years for IT and 5 years for finance, and the IT included the last 3 years of promotion and people management. That's gonna have more weight than just 5 years of finance experience.
Gotcha.
So 5 years of whatever experience. So yeah, that progression, and again, we're talking post collegiate, obviously. That progression, managing people, managing P&Ls, managing projects. That's demonstrating, that's the leadership that's coming through the work experience that we're looking to hone and help you further develop while you're in the program so that you can get those opportunities, once you're out of the program.
And I do want to make a quick point.
Yeah, there was one question. Oh, please, go.
Really quickly, so for students who are relatively fresh out of undergrad, do you guys also look at internships as work experience, or?
With regards to the application, we will look at that. As far as the waiver goes, it's full-time. This particular slide is pretty important, and this is kind of a peek behind the tent or a golden nugget, if you will, for those of you all who were kind enough to register and hear Mr. Wells and I chit-chat for going on 2 hours. We want students in this program who are going to not just go through the program, but allow the program to go through them. It is an evening program, and we do realize that you all have careers, lives, family. We don't want 24 hours, 7 days a week from you, but we do want more than show up at 6 to class and leave at 8:50. The point becomes, we want you all to put your foot forward and network with your classmates. We want you communicating with us. We want you helping us understand what can we do to make your experience better? What can we do to make the overall program better? We want you all here when we say such and such companies coming to recruit. Now, if they're looking for human resources opportunities and you want to go into finance, we don't expect you to be here. But if we send out a tailored message saying, hey, based on your career assessment and development, you want to do HR, so-and-so is coming, be here. If we're saying, hey, we're trying to build a case competition team for National Black MBA, see what it's like. If we say, we're looking for student leadership and the Student Government Association. We're looking for the student that's gonna say, hey, this will help round out my experience, my background, help me get to my school. I'm in. I know I don't have a lot of extra time, but I'm going to help you and I'm gonna make time for this. Again, you don't have to do everything, but we expect everyone to be a part of something in some way, shape, or form. Does that make sense? So again, you guys are here. You guys got that golden nugget. When we see that in essays, when we hear that in interviews, it means something. But when you say it or write it, mean it. Again, next slide. So clubs and organizations, I've talked quite a bit about National Black MBA. We will be in Houston at the end of September. Beta Alpha Psi, for those of you all who are on the accounting track, the master students are involved in those organizations. Students have gotten internship opportunities, full-time opportunities at those conferences, American Marketing Association. The point becomes, you're going to learn just as much from your classmates and the people next to you as you are from your professors. Those who get the most out of this program are the ones that are involved in the clubs and the activities and do something beyond just coming to class. Trust me, if you aren't able to make the time for those things going in, you want to figure out how to do that before you start the program. Trust me. Investment Club, we've got Bloomberg, live Bloomberg terminals right here in the capital markets lab. We're allowing people to do the Bloomberg Market Concepts certification right here. Every student in the program has access to that lab, can go and get that information or that certification. But again, you all got to go. You've got to log on. You've got to put in, I believe it's the 8 hours or what have you. And then NABA we're also affiliated with as well. So it's kind of the field of dreams. We built it. We're now waiting for you all to come. Questions?
So if you are already involved in professional organizations
Okay.
before coming in,
Okay.
do we, and we state that, then it's okay if we don't really attend what's on campus during the program and just attend our regular schedule, meetings or,
Give me an example of the professional association.
I'm a part of NABA as well as IMA. And I
Okay.
do attend, the meetings and stuff like that.
So,
Like the seminars and the chapter meetings for the DC area.
So I would think in this dynamic around that. A, definitely keep being involved.
Okay.
B, are there learnings and opportunities where maybe even, and I've told students this, okay, if there's no SHRM chapter on campus, let's figure out the SHRM chapter in the city of Baltimore and let's get 5 or 10 students regularly going and participating there. So it might be you continuing to do what you're doing, but drag a few other classmates on.
Gotcha.
Or it might be, hey, Mr. Wells, Mr. Fletcher, I was just at this IMA meeting and there's this great opportunity out there for a fellowship, a scholarship, or here's a great opportunity for people to go get registration credits and points and maybe, can get some volunteer or extra credit classes or something like that. You mind sending something out? Or so it's really the engagement and the connection that we're talking about.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
That works.
Excellent.
And I will say that we, as a program, do put our money where our mouth is. So this year, we sent as Nick said, Braves ambassadors. So we underwrite about 3/4 of the cost that go to the National Black MBA. So there are 3 costs associated with that. One is travel, that's on you. One is the registration, that's on us. And the third is the lodging, the hotel, that's on us. So if the trip is round numbers, $1,000 a student, round numbers, we'll pick up $750 of that. There aren't any other schools that are doing that. We sent 2 students, I believe, to the Beta Gamma Sigma. That's the Business Honor Society, which you can get into here with a 3.7 GPA or higher. We sent 2, meaning we paid for 2 students to go. We sent
Hospitality conference.
2 students or 1 student to a hospitality conference. We sent 2 students or paid for 2 students to go to the Schwab
Charles Schwab Impact.
Charles Schwab Impact Conference down in DC.
It was the Oracle FinTech
The Oracle FinTech out
in
in
Vegas.
Vegas, we sent 2 students to, so we will, 3, so we will, and we don't have, and we're not rolling in money, but we will invest in opportunities for students where we can to do this. If you are interested in FinTech or blockchain, we are now through the Ripple grant. Ripple is a Silicon Valley-based investment firm. They've now seeded about $50 million to about 25 schools around the country to really drive this notion of blockchain and fintech. The only HBCU they gave me money to was here. So we've now launched a fintech and blockchain center. The money is for us to drive that research here. The other half of the money, the $2 million grant, the other half of the money is for us to seed other HBCUs dollars for research or for conferences or whatever, papers, whatever it is, for them to begin to develop that level of research themselves. So, we do, there are resources that we can bring to bear. Nick mentioned the CASE teams. Well, part of the people that went to Detroit, the National Black MBA CASE competition, and we underwrote everything for them to do that. We sent 3 out of those same 4 students to KeyBank in February. KeyBank was through Ohio State University. There were like 30, 33, 35 teams. The team we sent, second time they've ever competed, they placed 3rd. That's nice. And they came back with a check for $5,000. Even nicer. So there are opportunities to do that. So what we're really talking about is engagement. It's critical that you guys engage with each other. It's classmates that you engage with. Danelle, who's going to be going into his, your 3rd semester? So you engage with him while you're here. That you ultimately engage with Atara, who just graduated as an alum. All of these network and connections are very, very important because as you begin to develop and move in your careers, these are the individuals, a lot of you're going to be calling on. You're going to be calling on the person who you were tight with going through in your as a first year, who really blew out marketing, or who crushed accounting, or whatever it is. Those are some of the first calls you're making as you're moving on out into your careers. So we do a lot, and I'll mention this, is that the Thurgood Marshall College Fund and Hennessy have teamed up on a scholarship program, a fellows program rather, for MBA students, for master's students, MBA students.
Well,
It's MBA students at HBCUs, where they're going to sponsor 10 of them a year, and they're going to underwrite the full tuition. There's actually stipend. The tuition cost is actually more than what we cost.
Right.
So I'm not sure whether you're going to refund how that'll work. And the stipend, and professional development, a week or a couple weeks in August. And we're one of the two. They literally just started, and they only came to 2 schools to actually promote this. They went to FAMU and they came here. And now they're looking at all the HBCUs, so the cast is net wider than that. But we just found out today that out of the first 10, the first cohort, we got 3. So 3 of our students are going to now get this is their 2nd year fully paid for and get a stipend.
And 10K towards a community service.
Yeah,
project.
10K towards it. That's a competitive process, but toward a community passion project that they're interested in. So that's something that's new. For anybody that's interested in the foreign service, the diplomatic corps, we're now one of the preferred partners with the Pickering, the Randall Pickering Fellowship. I think it's one out of Howard, where they pick up again the tuition, and these are for people who are interested in, say, going into an embassy or consulate, and that's just being the CFO. So that's on the table as well. So we're looking at all kind of different ways to support students, support you guys, in terms of pursuing whatever it is you want to. Nick mentioned the 10,000 small businesses. I run that here and co-run Baltimore, and we're now going to make you guys, as for talk about the PBL opportunities, accessible, make this pool of highly talented students accessible to those companies here in town. It's about 200 companies in and around Baltimore, kind of across the whole state, but they now become a resource for you to find opportunities. These are young companies for the most part, growing companies, and again, these are not things where you're bidding copies and going to get coffee. We're not doing that. I'm launching a growth plan to take my business from $500,000 in revenue to $3 million in revenue in the next 18 months, and I need help doing that. Well, that's where you guys come in. And again, you most likely won't be getting paid for that, but at the end of the day, who cares? It's time. And the ability to have on your resume that you wrote the growth plan for XYZ company that took them from point A to point AAA in over 18 months, that's absolutely invaluable for you taking into a larger company or another emerging company to be able to do that, be able to talk about that entire process. What was it from a research standpoint, from a writing standpoint, from an analysis standpoint? What analysis is done quantitatively versus qualitatively? To be able to talk and speak to that, that's going to be extraordinarily valuable for wherever it is you want to go. We're trying to make all those kind of opportunities come alive for the students. We put a lot of time, energy, and work, and effort, and money behind trying to make these things happen because we realize, again, why are you here? These are the kind of things you're here to do, is to drive your career in whatever direction you want to drive it, but it's to drive your career. So how can we help you do that? Whether it's scholarships, whether it's conference opportunities, whether it's professional-based learning, whether it's professional development, whatever it is. And also the relationships you all will naturally develop with each other. Those things are important in terms of helping round you out, and helping best position you for whatever it is you want to do, wherever it is you want to do it. Yes.
Question.
You mentioned scholarships, so there's opportunities to receive a scholarship even after your first year.
So we have MBA scholarships, which are full tuition scholarships. Tuition, not fees. So that 514, the credit you saw, we pick up 420, whatever it is, or something like that. And then you pick up the fees and the expenses. And you have to maintain a GPA of 3.0, et cetera, to do that. These other things we're talking about are simply out there. So actually, one of our students who is on scholarship, maybe it's two of them that are on scholarship. Two are now coming off our books and going on to the Thurgood Marshall books. So, and we have students who worked as grad assistants who now gone to MDOT or other places, who've left us and gone outside of work experience, which we encourage. So their funding opportunities are available. Obviously, you're not going to have our scholarship and Thurgood Marshall, or our scholarship and Randall Pickering. But those are tremendous opportunities. And the only reason you're going to probably have second years there is because of the timing of they have to have a semester's worth of grades. And we're given when their deadline is, if you're a fall applicant, if you're entering in the fall, that's no problem. The deadline is like May. That's not a problem. You have your fall semester. If you're spring, you're going to miss that deadline for the most part.
And that's for the other scholarships.
That's for the Thurgood Marshall. Yeah.
But I guess what I'm asking is, if, say today, I applied today and I made it into the fall semester, I didn't get a scholarship then, can I apply spring semester or the following semester?
Yes.
You can. And I want to say probably maybe 2 or 3 semester might be a student that, again, didn't initially get a scholarship, but so we have them essentially turn in an application. We weigh them right in with the students who are coming into the program, and we let it shake out where it may. But you're still eligible as long as you can have that 3.0. Other questions? Excellent. Again, we have a student government association. Actually, Donnell Taylor is a member, and well, he's going to continue in a capacity. We're still working all of those details, but again, we actually have an event coming up on the 22nd of June with alumni, current students, again, a mixer and a gathering, just celebrating the summer, and again, networking and engagement. So we look forward to having you all at future events. Next slide. We talked a little about funding earlier. Here are just a few options. So for those of you all who may not get the scholarship coming in, but still want to try to see what opportunities are out there, National Black MBA, I know for sure the local chapter in Washington, D.C. has a scholarship opportunity that they offer at the master's level. UNCF does have scholarship opportunities for master's level students as well. Definitely take a look at those. Most of those deadlines are usually around April, but I would still double check and make sure. If you've missed them, then what I would do is simply add them to your calendars for next year. Thurgood Marshall has opportunities beyond the Hennessy Fellowship, but definitely the Hennessy Fellowship that Mr. Wells spoke of earlier should be on everyone's radar screen going into their second semester. And SHRM actually does have opportunities for students who are interested in human resources as far as scholarships.
Please think through how you're going to pay for school. I know that sounds obvious. You'd be surprised at the emails and calls we get, where if I don't get the scholarship, which nobody's promised.
Repeat that one more time?
Yeah, which nobody, I don't get the scholarship, which nobody has promised. And it's, August 15th, and school starts in a week. I can't go. I mean, well, what the hell kind of planning is that? So definitely apply, apply for the scholarship. I'm not saying don't, obviously, but make sure that you have in your own mind how this is going to go. If in fact it doesn't work out.
And
what I'll say is that what's happened is that the scholarship dollars that we had, I remember when I first got here in 2015, I had $100,000 left out of about a $350,000 budget. I was trying to hand out summer money, like, hey, you want that class? You want that class? I'm not getting rid of it. Because in my own mind, again, I came out of corporate. You all know what happens at the end of the year when you got a master surplus. Oh, you don't need that $100,000. Now, they didn't do that here. But each successive year, because we've raised tuition, the scholarship budget hasn't moved. So just in the last year, we've lost, I don't know, 5% of our credits. And that's kind of compounded that. So the dollars available for us are getting smaller and smaller. That's why things like Hennessy and other opportunities we're looking for, we're actively looking for corporate partners. We'd love to have, I'm really making this up, Under Armour scholars. So Under Armour kicks in money for 10 people, and McCormick does it, and so does it. And so all of a sudden, we're able to expand expand the support, financial support for students coming in. I wish they'd had scholarships when I got my degree. Yeah, really. But that's one of the things that we're actually looking to do. But I just said this to everybody: is please make sure that you're planning appropriately for the financial obligations that you ultimately will have here at this school or any other university.
And really, to summarize it, it's have a plan B. So I'll talk to applicants all the time. They'll say, oh, well, should I be applying for my FAFSA or whatever? Yes. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you have those things in place. Because if you don't apply by certain deadlines, that won't be an option or a plan B. So have all of those things lined up. And if it turns out you're granted something, You can always say, no, I opt not to take that now. So have all those ducks in a row. Make sure you're checking deadlines for FAFSA and you've got taxes and all of those things turned in at a certain time. So if you don't get scholarship dollars, you're not in a situation where it's, oh, I can't come. Janelle, you had one?
For the scholarship for the SHRM, do you already have to have the certification for it to get the scholarship?
No.
Was that Hennessy as in like the liquor Hennessy company?
It is. It is.
It's
So,
Hennessy,
what?
Moet, and
Who's the other?
Louis Vuitton.
And Louis Vuitton, yeah.
I think there's a fourth, but it's that whole luxury brand. And so they're looking at, the three people who are in, they, one of them, one or two of them may end up working for Hennessy. They may work elsewhere. Again, their point is, their whole point is, how can I increase the number of Black and brown people in the C-suite? And they want to start with the MBA students coming out, going in. And again, it's a longer term project. And we are actually fortunate to be on the ground floor. Literally, we were on the phone with them, I want to say last week or the week before, talking strategically of how you actually should be building this.
Yeah.
So we are literally involved with strategically the plan for how this thing should eventually grow. But yes, to your point, that's who it is. It's that entire company. So, there could be, if you're interested in the hospitality or luxury business, and again, that doesn't, they have accountants, they got finance departments.
Marketers,
They got all that stuff.
operators,
So
project managers.
And again, it's whether you're, it's so that could be an area that could be of interest. And that's something we're helping them develop. So yeah, there are a lot of exciting opportunities that have come down the pike in the last, just here. With Hennessy, with Pickering, with the blockchain, I want to say those were all since March.
Yeah. It's been a busy
Those are all,
semester.
those are all since March.
Exciting things. And we're tailing the end here. I know we're a little bit over. Thank you all for sticking with us. These are our 3 social media links and sites. Please jump on, follow us. We post things that are happening, things like Hennessy's scholarship, other scholarship opportunities. We post reminders of upcoming deadlines, events, things like that. Again, as someone who is stating, we're looking for engagement from students. If you're applying and you're writing in your essays of, oh, I see these are the things that are happening on campus. Oh, okay. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be engaged when you're here, and it's even more apparent. So there's a message in that. I'm sure most of you got it. So if you're following us on social media, you know more intimately the things that are happening here, and it helps you in writing essays moving forward. So with that stated, we can jump into Q&A, but I will just call out again, if you need to contact us or reach us, both Mr. Wells and my contact information is there. We'll make sure we put the edit in also of Graves Masters, Graves Masters, MASTERS at Morgan.edu is another way, and probably the best way, to get in touch with us, especially on general questions. But if you need us, there's our info, and you know how to find us. So we've gotten some great questions throughout the evening already, but certainly want to make sure while we're here, and again, while we have an alumni in the building and a current student, feel free to shoot out a few questions, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. Please.
Will the slide deck be emailed out?
Yes. Can you make a note to remind me? Please make sure that happens. Thank you. Look, I'll start here and start working my way up.
So as since I am currently an entrepreneur, how does your school help to advance, would help to advance me in my efforts to grow a business that I've already started?
I think there's multiple ways where that comes into play. Now, again, I don't understand your business or understand your background coming in. I've found a lot of entrepreneurs go and operate on heart and gut. So coming into a MBA program, I'm glad you asked that question because we didn't get into a lot of this. At the end of the day, what you're taught in business school, especially MBA, is how to make sound decisions with limited information. And as an entrepreneur, I'm willing to bet you've got to make tough decisions with limited information day in and day out. Coming through business school, you will begin to learn, where is a lot of the information that I need and how do I get access to it quickly? But also, now that I have it, what do I do with it? Whether this is how do I improve my cash flow, whether this is how do I design a marketing strategy, whether this is how do I think through human capability management and who should be on my advisory board or board of directors, who should be my partner, whether it's sitting in corporate finance and understanding how do I value my company. So that, I think, from just a class and tools perspective helps. I even jump back to the seed, and maybe you talked with SCORE and SBDC and a couple of these other places, but there are quite a few students, faculty that they're working with already. So I'd like to think that there's a group of people there that are putting in a little extra effort and trying to make a few more connections for our Morgan students. As a matter of fact, our SCORE representative was talking the other day about, hey, I'm working with individuals that need industrial kitchens. So, hey, you need to go and talk to so-and-so, and maybe you can get a better deal on the kitchen here on campus versus, wherever you're going. So when you have people who want to help do those type of networking things for you, I think it helps an entrepreneur.
Actually, the only reason I ask is because everything seemed to be focused on going into, large businesses and corporations as opposed to helping someone who would be an entrepreneur. So
I'm glad that you brought that up, and I will keep that in mind, and we will moving forward. But if you stop and think about it, our professor for entrepreneurship, Dr. Mary Foster, actually just revamped and revised a lot of our actual entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a core class in our program. So no matter whether you want to go corporate or go into accounting or marketing, you're going to go through entrepreneurship. And we're actually talking about moving that class up in the course sequence to where you get it almost your first semester. Because what we're finding is students, because currently it's in your last semester, by the time students get there, they're saying, wait a minute, if I realized I needed to know all of this or how important all of this was, I would have focused a little more earlier on. But definitely, when she went in and did that revisions on, speaking of Dr. Foster, she actually patterned Babson College, which is one of the top ranked in Boston, one of the top ranked entrepreneurship schools out there. And we're actually in the process now of even expanding to a few more additional entrepreneurship electives. So there's quite a bit there for those that want to do entrepreneurship. Excellent. I think there were a few more questions.
Yeah. For people management and managing skills on a day-to-day basis at my job, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
But through the community and volunteer work, I have people management skills. Is that okay, from a volunteer perspective and not really a corporate or job perspective?
I would definitely list it.
Okay.
And I would make sure it's on your resume. So if you don't, you can break out professional experience, volunteer, or leadership experience, and I would list it there.
Okay.
It may not necessarily be, it may not gain as much merit as if you were managing people professionally, but we want to know A, the types of things that you're involved in, and then B, if you're leading there, that helps us understand you've got aspirations of going there in the near future.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Good evening. I had a few quick questions.
Please.
In terms of the structure of the online MBA program,
Okay.
how is the flexibility? Like, is it like a live video chat that you have to be in, like, a certain amount of time, or is it like pre-recorded courses where you can kind of hop in anytime?
So it is a mix. The majority of the courses are sort of self-guided discussion board type scenarios where, again, 3 o'clock in the morning, you can jump up, read, jump in the groups, knock out your assignments. There are probably maybe 3 or 4 classes, and it's up to the professor's discretion.
Okay.
Of whether it's one of those, you can be anywhere you want to be, but 6 p.m. Eastern, you need to be logged in front of your laptop or your device with your camera on and audio. So it's a mixture, but the majority of the 4 most program that I
Yeah,
described.
the majority of classes are asynchronous, what we call that. So there's Dr. Foster's class that Nick referred to. That's one of the few classes that we're experimenting with that actually is synchronous. So I'm not sure which classroom it meets in, but it meets 6 to 8:50. We dial in, we have a grad assistant helping monitor, but she leads everybody in class there. And whether you're online or whether you're face-to-face, you're teamed up and you're doing your assignments that way. So she doesn't have the discussion boards and all that other stuff. She just simply has 10 people in the room and 7 people online and everybody going to class all at once. But that's one of the, as Nick said, that's one of the few classes that's done that way. We've looked at that. There's kind of there's 2 competing schools of thought. One is that online students want, they want anywhere, anytime. They want asynchronous. There's another school of thought that online students just don't want to be here, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to be someplace at 6 o'clock. I work in DC, I live in Northern Virginia, hard for me to get here, but if I could go home or take the class in my office Monday night from 6 to 8:50, I'm fine to do that.
Right.
So it's just, so we're looking at ways to try to have some of them be synchronous. But we have to have professors that are willing to kind of experiment like that. Like they said, most of them are at this point in time are asynchronous.
Okay. And also for the online MBA program, can you select concentrations, or is it more so just a general path?
No, the MBA program, the online program, there are 6.
Keep talking.
Yeah, there's 6 approved concentrations. That's capital C, and be approved by the state of Maryland. It's accounting, finance, marketing, management, and market research.
Okay.
So, yeah, and those are, we've gone to the state of Maryland to get formal approval to call those concentrations. When you graduate, you will see, if you take all 3 of your electives in one of those disciplines, you will see on your transcript MBA with concentration in. It will not appear on your diploma,
right,
but it'll appear in your transcript. We've also talked about what we call focus areas. So if entrepreneurship is one of them, and we developed 3 classes in entrepreneurship to take all those 3. The focus area, that's unofficial. That's just you talking about, hey, I do all my classes here, or project management. If we find that there's enough interest, then we'll go through the effort to actually do the formal application to the state, get that listed as a concentration. But as an online student, you have access to everything that the face-to-face students have. So if you go through professional development, you have access to the project-based learning opportunities, because some of them can be done virtually if you're not physically here. You have access to us. You have access to Handshake. You have access to everything that the face-to-face students have access to.
Right. Yeah, eligible for National Black MBA Ambassador, all of those things.
Exactly. You have access to any of the scholarships we talked about, any of the conferences we mentioned. You have access to all of that.
Okay, thank you. And I have one more question. I noticed that the average MBA online was significantly lower than like the full-time. I just
Oh,
wanted to
as
know
far
if
as,
there were-
as far as what?
average GPA, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Average GPA, average GPA. I guess, were there like any trends or factors that you might have noticed as far as like, I guess just the variance between?
To be honest, what that more than likely was maybe one or two students
Okay.
in that program that may have had great work experience, but didn't, and maybe they had graduated, whatever, 10 years ago. But, so we look more at their work experience and what they did versus an older,
So that was GPA prior to like joining, that actual GPA within the program.
correct.
Yeah, so I want to be clear,
So that's-
those GPAs, I want to make sure that we're clear. The GPAs that we put up were the GPAs for the spring of 19 incoming students. Those are their college GPAs.
Right.
Those are not the GPAs, I guarantee you, there's a 2.8 not gonna get you out of here.
That kind of alarmed me. I was like, oh, do I want to
Not gonna
join
get you out of
online?
here. So, those were the GPAs for the students on the incoming. And the other thing to realize is that the sample size is small. So the online class may have had, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 people in it. So there's those, we're in the process of marketing and building, and really building the online program. So, whereas the other classes, you're gonna have 20 or 30 people coming in. So that's why you'll get, so to the next point, at 2.8, when you mix it with the 3.2 and 3.4, it's gonna have a lot more impact than it would if you're mixing it with, 20 of the scores that were all above a 3. So that's why you'll see that. But that, to be clear, that's not the GPA of students going through the program. And we've graduated now 3.
Yeah, you're right.
We graduated 3 students.
Officially?
Yes. Yes. Well, no, we haven't declared the issue up yet, but she's graduated. They've all graduated well above, I don't remember what the GPAs are offhand, but they've all graduated well above, well above 3. You have to have a 3 to get out.
Right.
That's just, if you don't have a 3, then grad school puts you on academic probation, so, you gotta have 3 without it. That's not that way. Yes, question.
And if someone enrolls in the in-class program at any point in time, for whatever reason, can they make a switch to the online program, or do you have to?
It is possible to make a switch, but you are allowed to take as many as 4 online classes as a face-to-face student. So if you take, maybe it's a semester where you're saying, oh goodness, I'm in accounting and they're sending me, so-and-so pretty much the whole semester, January to April. So I'm gonna take all 3 of these classes. I'm gonna stay a face-to-face student because I understand the price discrepancy, but I'm gonna take 3 of my 4 classes that specific semester, or, for whatever reason. But if worse came to worse and you actually had to or wanted to make that switch, maybe your company's relocating you and you're just not physically going to be here. We've been through those situations and it is possible.
Thank you. And then I had one other question. I know some master's programs typically provide details on the student's success rate in terms of job placements and that type of stuff. So is there any way we can see that for this program, or just past class profiles?
We have just started within the last 2 graduating classes, so the December 2018 and the students that just finished in May of 19, in accurately pulling that together. So we want to get a little bit of a larger sample size before we're publicizing it, but we do realize that that is important, and it is something that we are tracking. Again, just wanting to get a larger sample
Yeah,
size.
just to put it into perspective, when I got here in September of 2015, everything that we talked about around career placement, and I mean everything, all of it, none of it existed. There was no career placement, which as far as I was concerned, and I told the folks, I said, that's malpractice. I said, you can't do that. So, and I wasn't kidding. Or Nick wasn't kidding, I don't know, I know about that, I know enough about that to know what I don't know. So I said, I need to know somebody who knows this whole getting people jobs, career placement, career management, really, not just the job, but the career management piece. So that's one of the main reasons why I hired him, because he had that executive search, that's what he did for 3 years. So we put a lot of time and energy in developing the professional development series first, then we developed the project-based learning, then we looked around for a career management platform, because we even asked the undergrads who were here, how many of you guys use eBear, which is undergraduate management platform? And we could ask a room of 100 people, pick any 100 students off campus, honor students, whatever, you'll get 5 to 10 hands that go up. They don't use it. And I looked at it and I said, we can't have, this is not master's student stuff. So we looked around for a system and we found one. And after a lot of effort, going back and forth with people inside the institution, we got it up and running as a third kind of lever. And then the fourth lever is we're now going back to taking folks to National Black MBA, which is incredibly important. We've gotten the relationships going with companies, so now we're happy to say that for public services, which is a relatively new relationship, we've now placed 3 students there in the last, I think it's 3, in the last year. So we placed 2 this May, one of whom you saw, Kim Glover, after he was a student who spoke about her experience in professional development. She's now in
Charlotte.
North Carolina with Republic, and the other student is in Louisville with Republic. So, and the one who we placed last year is up in Philadelphia with Republic. So, you know, we're building all this infrastructure out, and really what you're talking about is a data capture point. And we're now doing that now, looking really 90 days post-graduation at what folks are doing. That's either I was working and I'm still working, I was working and now I got promoted, or I wasn't working and now I've secured a position. So we're now in a position from a technology standpoint to literally capture that information now. We simply weren't because these systems didn't exist. So, but we understand that was one of the things that drove us to go where we went. Those are the same questions we were asking. And we realized that we couldn't, if we wanted to attract better students, I wanted to attract students who were asking those questions. I was tired of getting attractive students who were not asking those questions, to be perfectly frank with you. So we realized that we had to put that infrastructure in place. And now that it is in place, now we can capture that. It's also now incumbent upon the students to use it. So to register for it, and because that's where we're placing opportunities, to build a real robust profile so the companies can actually find you as well as they're searching. So we're putting that infrastructure in place because we recognize that, again, for the kind of students that we're looking to attract, that's going to be of importance. You had a question? Yeah.
Actually, it was kind of similar to what she asked, which was job placement, especially for those students that are well into their careers, maybe 14 plus years, maybe even on the end of their current professional career, and coming into the master's program. What is job placement like for those older as an age students?
So I would be interested in, is this individual shifting? So are they moving, like, let's say, out of IT and want to go into marketing or something like that?
Yeah. So I'll just use myself because I'm on the end. I'm looking at the light at the end of the tunnel as far as my career. So I'm looking at shifting. Yeah.
Sure.
So I just wanted to know what the statistics are like for students like me, like myself, who's looking for a different career once I retire or leave my current position.
So I'll be blunt that we haven't dissected it down to what are statistics based on years of experience coming into the program, and or broken it down into, okay, well, were these individuals coming in and saying, okay, I like where I'm at, I'm just looking to move up. That, to be honest, that's probably, for individuals that are coming into the program that are that experienced, that's the bucket they usually would fall into. But I think it's going to come down to what is it that you want to do next? And it's going to come down to what opportunities are you going to seek out in leveraging the resources that are here to go and do it? This is the reason that when I had the slide up about the professional development series, that the third session of that week, we don't have class. Ms. Wells will tell you, I clear my schedule for 2 or 3 days and I just do one-on-ones. And I talk with every student going through the program, and what we talk about is, okay, so do you know everything that's here in this career assessment? Do you understand why all these things are important? Okay, I'm looking at your career research responses. So, hey, here's a list of 10 to 15 companies. Let's start talking about this. Or here's a list of 10 to 15 potential clients that we might want to walk through if you're more on the entrepreneurship side. So again, I don't have an immediate response of, oh, it's 85, 90% of individuals that are coming in. But what I will say is the tools and the resources are there, that as long as you know what you want to do and you're willing to go through the process and allow the process to go through you, we'll get you there. Just like we got those 3 students to Republic, and just like we've gotten plenty of students to other opportunities as well.
And my other question is, one of your slides showed the demographics in terms of male and female students. What is your demographics versus for age?
For age, we have not broken that out. We've only broken out like years of work experience. But actually, that's an interesting point. We can kind of do that in the future. Do you mind jotting that down? Because it's information we obviously have, so we can break that out. Good point. Question.
I have one more question. I think it was about a year ago, I know it was announced that we had a partnership with like Wharton's MBA program. Is that still like an active endeavor, or?
We have a relationship with the Wharton School. And so when I mean we, I mean the Gray School of Business. And that is right now much more of a professor to professor, academic department to academic department, PhD student relationship. So I was in the first meeting when the folks from Wharton came down. So it was, I think, their associate dean, some department chairs, and one of the things that we were looking for them to do was to have a look at our accounting and finance curriculum and other entrepreneurship and other things, and have a look at, are we current with what's current in terms of topics and trends? Are we comprehensive? Are we using kind of the same resources and tools? Obviously, we don't have the resources that Wharton has, but are we on track? And so that's an ongoing dialogue. I can tell you that the president and the dean had breakfast with another top 10 business school that's interested in doing the same thing with us. I had conversations with the associate dean at Hopkins about the same thing. So the dean is looking for ways to get us into partnerships, and I mean partnerships, where there could be a kind of equal exchange of ideas, an exchange of faculty. So at this point, quite frankly, like I said, it's really faculty to faculty, department to department. There will be some benefits that will ultimately trickle down to the students, but that would be mainly in the lines of, opportunities for conferences if they're hosting them. They host an analytics conference. That's exceptional. Nick's been, I've been, but the only students who have been PhD students. So we are looking for ways to broaden that down one level, at least to the master's level, but that hasn't made itself available yet. There's other partnership with other schools. I'm not actually sure where that's going to go. It could be something that could be similar. And we'll look at the same thing with Hopkins as well, because we're both here in Baltimore. So we're actively looking at, again, how can we make those things real for students as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
My question was in relation to scholarships. When a student applies, are they automatically considered for a scholarship, or do you have to like submit an extra application? And what is like the timeline of eluding a student if they did receive?
In the actual application, I believe it's the first or second page that you're on, there's a small checkbox in I think the bottom right corner. Would you like to be considered for tuition assistance or what have you?
Okay.
You check that box, then we will consider you for scholarship. So we go through the process, we determine, okay, here's everyone who was admitted. Then we look at, okay, how much scholarship dollars do we have left? Pull it all together. When we communicate to you, we will communicate to you that you're in. We'll communicate stating, here's when orientation is. We'll send you a link saying, please confirm. And if you are going to receive a scholarship, it'll be written there. You will get a full or partial. And then if you're getting the scholarship, there'll be a second confirmation, for scholarship. So there's usually, for those who are admitted to communications, you'll get either a letter and or an email from School of Graduate Studies, and then you will also get a notice from us.
Yeah, two things around that quickly. There's another piece of information that you'll be given in the letter, and that's whether or not you'll be required to take any pre-MBA or foundational classes. So if, for example, you haven't had any marketing, what we do is we admit everybody, and then we make a recommendation for the 4 or 5 foundation classes that these are all done online at our expense. There's they take about 20 or 30 hours to complete. And we will then send the list of admitted students along with our recommendations on yes or no for each of the foundationals. So if it's information technology, we send it to the project management faculty, the department chair, and he makes a decision on yes for the math or statistics class and yes for one other one. If it's business administration, if that's marketing and business administration. So we may recommend that the student doesn't do any of these. And the chair may come back and may have a difference of opinion. But that all goes in your, that goes in the letter as well. And I want to be very clear. When you are admitted, you will get an email from us, Grace Masters, saying, congratulations that you're in. That's the first, then there may be a more detailed correspondence with that, that's it.
That's it.
Okay, that have all the information in it. Okay. That is not your official admissions letter. Your official admissions letter will usually follow, 2 weeks later, from the School of Graduate Studies, signed by the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies, saying congratulations, you have been admitted into the master's program in whatever it is. And that's when they talk about you have to submit an official transcript and official test scores. That is your official admissions letter. Our communication is just, we want to welcome you, pass on a lot of other information, and try to do it in a timely fashion. I forget who raised it, because you may be looking at other institutions. So I've applied for scholarship to every school that I've applied to, and I've gotten into all of them. Who's giving me money, and how much am I getting? You're telling me I have to take 5 foundation classes? I ain't going there. We want you to have all the information, or none, we want you to have all the information as soon as we can so that you can make an informed decision as to which institution or which offer, really what it comes down to, which offer you're going to take. So, but in order for us to do that, we need completed applications October 1st. I cannot stress that enough. If we don't have everything, it significantly delays everything, and the spring admissions timeline is much more compressed. We go October 1, they're due. November, we're going to get to a decision. December, you let us know. January the 20th, give or take, 21st, 22nd, whatever that Monday is, classes start. It isn't like a spring admission, which could be May, and you've got until August, you got more time. So you've got to get all this stuff in everything completed so that we can, because if we get that, then we can turn decisions around very quickly, get all this information out and get all this stuff done. The domestic students is one thing. Imagine if you're, in Africa or South America or someplace applying, you got I-20s and visas and everything else. We need to know immediately kind of what's going on so we can make those plans. So we want to be, and that's part of the way we remain competitive, is we have to be able to make decisions and get information to you as quickly as we can, so that you can then make an informed decision as to what you're going to do.
Thoughts, questions, concerns, criticisms? Excellent. We look forward to seeing applications from each and every one of you, and the deadline is
October 1st.
Excellent.
I actually do have one more question about the GMAT prep course.
Yes.
So you will send out something to those of us that registered?
We are going to send something out to everyone who's on our prospect list for MBA, MBA online, or MS in accounting. So
Okay.
once we get those dates, I showed the image of the flyer, but again, that was an older flyer.
Oh, okay.
So we'll get the new dates, we'll send everything out, registration link, and again, everyone who registered and was here today, if you weren't on our prospect list, you are on it now. But more than likely, most of you all were on there before even coming. So you'll be in our email file when we send that out. But if you don't get it for some strange reason by, let's say, the first week of August, just reach out to us, we'll make sure we get it to you. But we should have those dates in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, and you're thinking September?
I am thinking that we'll probably start it early September, depending upon when Labor Day starts, because the classes are usually on Saturdays.
Okay.
And like I said, it's usually a 10-week. So I'm thinking we don't want to go too far later. So we might have to shorten it to about a 7. So we'll probably be like a 9:30 to 1 or 2 in the afternoon or something on those Saturdays.
And so you, then you'll take the GMAT after that and you will accept?
We will. So for anyone who's registered within that class.
If you register for the class, what you'll have to do is you'll register for that class. And you will also have to register for the GMAT. So it's that GMAT registration. You're going to upload 3 things into that GMAT slot. You're going to upload your score because you took it. You're going to upload a waiver because you got it. Or you're going to upload, in this case, a registration showing, again, when the deadline comes around, October 1, you've got to have something entered into that.
Right.
So if you're taking the test in October 15th, you've already registered for it probably at the beginning of the class.
Right.
You'll also upload that registration in there, so we have that. We know you're in the class, so we're aware of that, so we're gonna say, where the hell is this? Oh, she's in the class. We will wait to get, and then once you take it and you get that score, you need to then, like Nick said, send that to that Graves Masters, because that should be the only piece that we're missing in order to evaluate the application.
And thank you for that point of clarity, because again, it's not an extension of the deadline to submit, but it will be an extension to when we will be looking for your score. So you still just need to upload the confirmation that you're registered for it by, the certain deadline date that we'll give, but everything should still be submitted by October 1.
Everything has to be submitted by October 1. And to be clear, again, not our rules, submit means I hit submit
and pay.
And pay. Both of those things by midnight on the 1st. And that way we're not trying to have negotiating with graduate school. Can you move this application to this? We really don't want to do that. We do that, but we don't really want to.
We don't want to. Right. Again, thank you all for bearing with us. I know we're a little bit over, but it has been great having you. And again, we look forward to reviewing your applications. If you have other questions that come up, you all know how to find us. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will try. Is there anybody that needs the restroom? It is on the other side of the screen, across the atrium. We're across the atrium.
It's an option. You don't have to, no.
So like, if I already, cause I'm in a rotation program now, right?
Okay.
So like, if I do that already, like, can that count?
It's interesting that you bring that up, because we have run into this.
That was how she, that's a question.